We're also expanding on the dynamic text that you have within SketchUp modeling. So we know we have the dynamic text around our lengths, but we've also now increased this with area as well. So it will update, and you can see again in the animation there that as you make any changes there, that will dynamically update. Also, if you update the scale as well, that will dynamically update also. So, it just means that, yeah, working out sort of room sizes and things like that, you can just apply that there, and, it makes it much easier to sort of work through. Okay. So there's some of the sort of quick general updates. So, hopefully these will make life a little bit easier. But, particularly around sort of the sharing of information, we want to make sure that, you're fully aware, because questions potentially could come up around the purge reminder. So, we want to sort of just really make those fully aware to you. Okay. So visualization. Now this one, is sort of, as we mentioned, one of our key sort of messages for the new release of SketchUp 2025. So looking at enhanced material and enhanced environment properties, sort of within visualization in SketchUp. And these are going to be simple sort of drag and drop visualization. We're trying to make it sort of really easy, new and inexperienced users. So it's dynamic, customizable. We can work with sort of the experienced users here. Now, the major part of this, there's sort of two parts here that we have PBR materials. And PBR materials, these are physical based rendering materials. And these are materials that contain a pack of information, and I'm going to go through that and explain this as we go, around sort of how the PBR materials work within SketchUp, and also a little bit about what's going on behind the scenes, because you do need to be aware of this, because again, it's within sort of education for your customers. It's going to be sort of a little bit of understanding there, but also around with file sizes as well. It does make a difference, and and we'll explain why as we go through. So there is a new button in the style toolbar. So the style there is display photoreal materials. So there's an option there. If you just want to sort of work with sort of previous SketchUp, you can set display shaded using textures or any of the other options. You can then save this as a template if you wanted to. So that's, one option to work with that as well. So, we're not forcing sort of these options, but, we want to make sure it's aware this is turned on by default. So we've got, the materials that will work with the environment. Now, the PBR materials, there's sort of more functionality now within the material editor. So not only with being able to use a texture image as well, there's some options there that we can actually say the control, the metalness, the roughness. We can have a normal map, but also ambient occlusion on a material now, as opposed to the scene that we had in 2024. Now, going through sort of explaining these properties and really sort of understanding how these work within PBR materials. So PBR materials, they have maps behind the scenes, and these are sort of files that control how these settings actually work. So there is a metalness map, roughness map, There's a normal map as well, and there's an ambient occlusion map. So, you know, this is how sort of SketchUp is working with these materials. And when we talk about metalness, so, you know, this is how much the material will reflect its surroundings. Now, in the instance in SketchUp, this is reflecting the environment. So, you know, it's not reflecting other objects, it's reflecting the environment. And, you know, we can see there sort of with those settings. So with the metalness set to 0, it's reflecting the light settings from the environment map, which we'll talk about as well. And as you increase the metalness, it's then starting to reflect that environment there. So it, you know, you have the control there, sort of particularly with the highlights of the lighting. Then you have roughness. So, you know, with the roughness map, this is how light spreads across the model. So if the roughness is 0, it's a smooth surface. So the light reflections there, so the environment reflections are sort of sharp. And then as you increase the roughness, it sort of diffuses those reflections around that surface. So, you know, sort of fuzzier in the middle there. And when the roughness is on full, it diffuses that reflection completely across the material. Then we have the normal map. Now the normal map is quite an important one. So normal map, it's sometimes known as bump map as well, but this will control the texture, the depth of texture on the surface of the material. Now, this doesn't actually create a texture on the material. It's this controls how the light interacts with the surface of the material. So, you know, it will look like it's you know, a textured material, but actually if you looked at it from the side, it would still appear sort of flat to the look, but it's a light effect. But it does give, you know, sort of quite a realistic option there as well. Now there is a setting, and if I go back just to our toolbar here, particularly around the normal map, this is quite an important sort of setting here. So there's no real definition when normal maps are created. Some people get it the wrong way round, so it can look like the material is going in the wrong direction. And the way we've set this up is we've got this little button next to the normal map that will switch the direction. So it will look sort of like, well, if you've got bricks as opposed to the bricks protruding more than the cement, it could go the other way around. So, you know, we want to make sure the normal map looks right. So, you know, we have got that setting to be able to change that. Then we have an ambient occlusion map within our materials. And the ambient occlusion map, so the ambient occlusion we introduced in SketchUp 2024 for the entire scene, but the ambient occlusion map on a material will mean that you can actually have objects with sort of, you know, dents and crevices. And here we've got sort of this striped concrete material, but by increasing the ambient occlusion map, it will highlight those crevices there as well. So it gives a shading within the crevices. So it, you know, it works a little differently to bump because it's actually sort of a shading more around how the light reacts. But it gives them much more realistic materials. Now, the way these maps work, so, you know, we can sort of look at this here anyway, but so SketchUp works with UV and island maps, which means you can have sort of multiple materials on a single sort of texture as such. But now these other colors, these are the files that will be contained within here. So this one is a normal map, and with the purple and the shading, that is how the light reacts differently around these materials. So this is on the seat and the seat back, so it gives it how the light reacts with the texture in the leather there. Then we also have, our different maps here. So this is the metal map. So choosing which materials will sort of have more effect around the metalness. So we can see that's black and white. And then the roughness map in grayscale. So all of these files will now be contained within the material within SketchUp. So this is where sort of we're talking about, okay, these materials in SketchUp will now be a little bit bigger, or potentially they could be quite a lot bigger depending on the sort of quality of the maps that you're using within your materials. And I'll talk about that one in a bit as we sort of go further. Because also within our textures as well, there's a new sort of tool that we have. It's currently in SketchUp Labs at the moment, so still considered beta, but it is open to users. So we have this AI tool that will look at a texture, and by selecting that AI tool, it will then actually generate the textures for the material base. So it produces all those different maps that we spoke about,